The Cincinnati Reds are finally being linked to two guys that they desperately need in Austin Hayes and Eugenio Suarez.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Reds podcast. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcasting network in all the land. Thank you very much for helping to get us there. My name's Stephen Offenbaker. His name's Jeff Carr. We love baseball. We love the Cincinnati Reds. We love talking about these things. We love it so much. We've been doing it for a combined 16 seasons now. We love talking Cincinnati Reds baseball with you. On today's show, a little bit later, we're going to get into the fact that the Reds had not one, not two, but three. That's right. Three top prospects in the top 100 from MLB Network. We're going to talk about who that was here in just a little bit. We're also going to talk about some confusion that seems to be rampant down at Great American Ballpark. What exactly is going on in the Reds front office right now? We've got that for you here in just a couple minutes. But where we are going to start is finally the Reds are linked to the guys that we've been telling you they should be linked to a little bit anyway. One of those in Eugenio Suarez, the other in a potential reunion with Austin Hayes. We're going to talk about that on today's show, Jeff. I'm not sure which one of these guys to start with. I'm really excited that they're finally linked to Eugenio Suarez. You and I have done several episodes talking about the fact they should be linked to Eugenio Suarez. The city loves him. He loves the city. He hit a lot of bombs last year. I know he doesn't quite fit the mold defensively, but offensively, he's kind of exactly what this lineup needs. And then there's Austin Hayes, who is not an upgrade. It's a status quo move in that you're bringing back a guy that was here last year, but a guy you would hope would continue to build upon what he did last year, coming off that really wonky kidney problem the year before, and be a better version of himself in 2026. So these are a couple moves that either one helps the lineup be better than what it is right now.
Yeah, Suarez is who we want, and Hayes is he's a hedge, right? Like you're hedging your bets with Austin Hayes this offseason, where if you bring him back, you don't feel better about the lineup, but maybe you don't feel worse either. But he's not that guy that you're like, we can put him in the 4 spot and people are worried about what type of pitches they throw to Elly De La Cruz because, oh boy, look who's coming next. That's who Eugenio Suarez is, and that's who we want the Reds to get. We want that guy in the middle of the order that's got the slugging power, he's got the RBIs, he's got the home runs, he's got all the things that really make you worry and sweat about just how many pitches you throw outside or inside the zone to one Elly De La Cruz who's right in front of him. And as we'll talk about a little bit later on in the show, Elly De La Cruz is getting some recognition as one of the top players in baseball. We just need somebody in the lineup to go with him, because as of right now, there's a lot of hope, well, we hope this guy could work out. We hope this thing could work out. We hope this bounce back could happen. Eugenio Suarez is not hope. And it was great to see. This was an article from Ken Rosenthal. This wasn't a tweet from some unnamed weird burner account that I keep seeing people share to me. I
doesn't get much more credible than Ken Rosenthal.
Yeah, like Ken Rosenthal's got the credibility, and when he's saying that the Reds are linked to these two guys, that's a lot of fun. Now, there is a sentence in there that talks about TV deals and what the Reds are not willing to do just yet and all this other stuff. We'll talk about that here in a bit, but focusing on these two guys in this lineup, like I just think if you get one of them, I feel better about the lineup than where I feel about it right now, because as it is right now, you don't necessarily have a good feeling as to who should bat second and who should bat fourth. There's hope in who should bat second and who should bat fourth. But you get Gino, you feel a lot better about those situations.
Yeah, and I want to make it pretty clear that we're not saying that, either one of these two guys is the same. Right. It's not. Eugenio Suarez is a much bigger uptick in this lineup. I want to remind everybody about what Austin Hayes was for the Reds last year, because there's a very negative connotation around his name because he was injured, because he wasn't available at times. you remember he had spurts of really good baseball. Now he was a 0.8. He wasn't quite one WAR, 0.8 in WAR last season. His slash line was not horrible, Jeff. 266, 315, 453. He hit 15 home runs. His OPS plus 105, 5% better than league average. His real problem, the real stat that jumps out at you is the fact that, like Chris Welsh always says, availability is the best ability, something along those lines. He played in 103 games. So he missed nearly 60 games, 59 games of the season. That's a lot. That's a big chunk that he was not in the lineup. And whatever player the Reds go and get, they need to be in the lineup, because you're right. The key thing here is, yes, the production, but also the protection of protecting Elly and giving Elly the opportunity to do the Elly things he wasn't able to do last year, both because he had no protection in the lineup and he was playing on one leg. So you take away both of those factors, you get an improved Elly De La Cruz and a guy behind him that can give you 40 home runs and Eugenio Suarez. That is a dramatically different lineup in 2026 than what the Reds put out there in 2025.
Because Gino is just all power, baby. All gas, no brakes. Slugged over 500 last year. He was in the top 10 in Major League Baseball in slugging percentage, to say nothing about homers, which is something that the Reds haven't had in a long time, where he was 4th in Major League Baseball in hitting home runs. Let's play the sample size game for just a minute, because we do this a lot with different guys, especially guys that we're really trying to convince folks on. Spoiler alert, there's plenty of ways to do that when it comes to statistics in Major League Baseball. And Austin Hays is a sample size darling, because if you look at what he did in the first month of the season last year, in 13 games for March, April, whatever it was, he slashed 365, 431, 712. He slugged 712. There were some guys whose OPS was lower than that. For the season, he hit 5 of his 15 total home runs in that time span. Dude was the MVP for the Reds in the first month of the season. Like, I know we like to joke about it, Jose Trevino's performance during that point, but Austin Hays literally was. And so, like, looking at different sample sizes, because people are doing this with Gino, I've seen some folks, really try to bash his defense, really try to bash the fact that he had a lower batting average or whatever ever since he was traded and things like that. But the sample size game goes both ways. And there's plenty of good with Gino. There's some good with Austin Hays. And Austin Hays led this team in slugging as far as like regular players go last year as well. So either one of them is good. I
don't know how you can, with a straight face, be against the Reds going and getting Eugenio Suarez, given the shortcomings that this team has had over the last couple years. I mean, I get it. I get it that people want to be batting average focused still, but that's just not modern baseball. And yeah, I know there was a time where 228 would make you go, my God, why is this guy still playing? We're not in that place anymore. You know what place we are in? 49 home runs. That's the place that we're in right now. You know what place we're in? 118 RBIs. That's the place we're in right now.
And look, I tried to make the argument. I tried to say against him, and I've come around to it, because the point is he plays DH for you. He is your DH every single day. Maybe he plays a little first, maybe he plays a little third, but you bat him fourth and play him DH, and he hits well for you.
And he does that 26% better than league average. That's what his OPS plus says. 26% better than league average last year. There's no, you can't make a justifiable argument to not go and put him in this lineup in 2026.
There is no team. I'm trying to think of how do I was about to put a lot of negatives in here, so I got to work my brain around. Okay. No team is less equipped to turn their nose up to Eugenio Suarez on the Cincinnati Reds. They had 3 guys in their regular lineup that were over 100 OPS plus last year. None of them were over 110. Like, Gino was so much better than anybody else in this lineup last year. And I don't necessarily know that, like, there's this fortuitous drop if all you're doing is asking him to play DH for a couple of years. Because I think I saw some unsubstantiated rumor that the Reds might have offered him a 3-year deal. I don't think that's the case. But if it's a 2 or 3 year deal, that's what I'm here for. If we're talking about 4 or 5 years, different conversation, but 3 or 4 sounds good. Or 2 or 3.
Do you think that the narrative here is that they're in pursuit of Eugenio Suarez and that they're dropping in a check-in on Austin Hays to have a consolation prize, to have a backup plan. It kind of feels like that because
what's that old corny saying? Shoot for the moon, and if you miss, you end up in the stars. So moon, Gino, stars, Austin.
Friday philosophies with Jeff Carr, ladies and gentlemen.
But I know this, Steve. Like it's clear that the Reds need a lineup upgrade, and they are linked to a couple of them. Although we would much rather them go get Gino.
I absolutely agree. I thought you were throwing to a break there, and that is probably where we should move on to the next spot in this conversation, because as we've talked about and demonstrated, Gino's a great fit for the Reds. The problem is there's some confusion in the front office right now about exactly what this team is doing, and I have a pretty good idea where it's coming from. We'll tell you about it next. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax full service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or the guesswork. Instead of spending hours trying to figure out forms, you can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or connect online. They handle everything from W-2s to self-employed forms and work to get you every deduction. You can upload your documentation, go on about your day, and get updates right in the TurboTax app. It's a huge time saver and gives real peace of mind knowing the experts are handling it all for you. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. And if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate and get back into your life. Visit turbotax.com/local to book your appointment today. Thanks for making Locked On Reds your first listen today and every day. We appreciate you so much for helping make Locked On the #1 sports podcasting network around. You already live your team every single day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free over on the audio side. You can join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Reds with no interruptions. You're also going to get access to a members-only Discord server and so much more, including access to not only Jeff and I on that server, but every single podcast host on the Locked On network. You can talk a lot of ball with the Everydayer Club. You want to get started? Just head over to lockedonreds.supercast.com to get started for just $5 a month. Need to know more? Check out the show description. All right, Jeff, there's some confusion going on here because in the same breath, on the same stroke of the keys that Ken Rosenthal is telling us, hey, Gino sounds good. There's also a TV deal. Doesn't sound so good. There's a little bit of a mixed message there coming from Ken Rosenthal, who I believe heard both of those things, but I'm wondering if he didn't hear those things from different people within the Reds front office.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder a little bit about like what's going on there, because I feel like for the last couple of years, it's been pretty evident that Nick Krall is given marching orders and he is working within those marching orders, and he is one and the same with whatever plan it is that they have. If it's cutting payroll, he does that. If it's not really adding a whole lot of payroll, but somehow adding talent to the team, he tries his best to do that. And here recently, we've seen a little bit of a split, not necessarily as though he is trying to disobey orders and go somewhere else with this, but he is saying things that don't line up with now what we're hearing, because Ken Rosenthal's report that the Reds are linked to Gino and linked to Austin Hayes also said with it that the Reds will not be moving forward until there is more clarity with the TV deal. Remember, we've been talking about this a little bit in case you've forgotten. The Reds and Main Street Media, who is the company that operates FanDuel Sports Network, have split because Main Street Media missed a revenue payment to the St. Louis Cardinals last month. I think it was December, or maybe it was even November actually at this point, but they missed that revenue payment. The rest of the teams that were underneath that media umbrella got together and all decided we're leaving this charade here. And so the Reds do not currently have a television broadcaster. Rest assured, they will have one. And us as fans will be able to watch this team. The problem will be the revenue. And that's what they're saying right now. And I wonder, Steve, the more that we talk about this, the more that we think about this, it feels like a giant, disclaimer. Like, we have rumors about players that we're going to go get, but just in case, this is why we didn't get them.
That seems fair. And for clarity of the TV deal, also, I don't know necessarily that the Reds front office is waiting to hear, oh, we have a new contract with this unknown player that came out of left field, pun intended. But it could be more that when we first heard that the TV situation was in jeopardy, we also heard Major League Baseball say, if this goes belly up, we're not going to be able to subsidize all the teams like we did last year. Major League Baseball subsidized teams like the Padres that lost their TV revenue and were broadcasting on MLB on TV. So,
and Twins, I think. I was thinking it was just 3 teams.
There was 3 teams, right? So Major League Baseball subsidized them. I wonder if the owners are negotiating amongst themselves about a subsidy for the teams that lose their TV carriers so that they can make up some of that money. I'm not sure, but I feel like Nick Krall had a quote, right, Jeff? Yes. We can go to this because Nick Krall spoke after the Gavin Lux trade, spoke at Reds Fest, spoke to the media, and had the following to say.
So this was a question from Mark Sheldon, actually poignantly asking, did you trade Gavin Lux, and the money that you saved, was that going to be applied to the Pierce Johnson signing, as though like the Reds didn't quite have enough to sign Pierce Johnson, but this trade made it so? And Nick Krall responded with these exact words. No, we're still trying to look to add to our position player group if we can figure out how to use that money and get someone else. We felt this was a good move for us, just adding a left-handed reliever, unquote. So basically, he is saying, no, this was not we got to save money and get rid of some payroll. This was, we're doing this and we're still working over here too.
So this was during Reds Fest, and I feel like Nick Krall was telling the absolute truth. That's exactly what Nick Krall's plan will be. But I feel like he hadn't quite had a chance to check in with the Castellinis. Phil was wandering around Reds Fest lurking in the tunnels and hiding behind the barriers, trying to catch me on an escalator. But it didn't happen. But I think that the ownership group may have been like, whoa. Listen,
we could pocket that $3 million, right?
Yeah, Nick, wait, time out, Nick. Wait. So I suspect that, Nick Krall maybe got some updated marching orders after that Q&A at Reds Fest, because I think that was truly is his intention. I wonder if the ownership group was like, can we maybe just put a little pause on what you're spending until we figure out what's going on with this TV stuff? I think both things are true. I think the ownership group is saying that, but I do believe that is exactly what Nick Krall intended to do when they made the Gavin Lux trade.
And I think in this weird spinoff of Succession, or I don't know, just name some sort of weird business drama TV show that you can ascribe to the Cincinnati Reds, I think this is a little bit of character development in Nick Krall's part, because there's a lot of folks, if you ask them what they think of Nick Krall, most of them are just like, he's a puppet for ownership. He does exactly what they say. He has no, he's not autonomous, basically. And I think for once we're seeing that autonomy where he's just like, wait a minute, guys, these guys over, I had some plans. So now what? We're just gonna wait. Do we need the TV fairy to come and put some money under our franchise pillow here so we can go get some more players? Because the regional network fairy seems to have flown off, and so maybe the MLB fairy, I don't know. It seems like we're really not playing smart off-season baseball here, because it seems like there's one more move that the Reds need. They add themselves a Eugenio Suarez, and we are ready for opening day. And here we are just sitting here just well, maybe not. All right, what's next? And we're all freezing our butts off, and there's going to be 1.5 feet of snow, depending on who you listen to, coming in this weekend. And we get these wonderful rumors about possibilities. And in the same breath, they're like, yeah, but Steve.
Can I also just say, by the way, 1.5 feet of snow? Are you kidding me? Absolutely not.
It's like it's definitely wavering. There's like 8 inches to like 16 inches. It just depends on who you listen to. And there might be ice in there. I don't know. I've already gone to Kroger. I've already got plenty of Oreos. I'm good to go. But I think that when it comes to this, just like we're just thinking, man, baseball's getting closer. We just had Reds Fest. It feels like as little as there is, there's some momentum building. And you sign a Eugenio Suarez, there might be some folks go buy some tickets to go fly out to Goodyear. Yeah. But right now it's like, okay, but in case we don't, this is why.
And it's a dramatically different offseason grade from me. We've gone round and round on this. And listen, by the way, credit to some of the folks out at Reds Fest that, we've talked about this last week, Jeff, that just the sheer number, the volume of people that came up and talked ball with us while we were wandering around Reds Fest just absolutely blew my mind. But a couple people pushed back on my offseason grade of giving them and defended the Reds, which I was really surprised about and thought I was being a little bit too hard on them. But signing a Eugenio Suarez dramatically changes how I evaluate this offseason for the Cincinnati Reds, because it addresses a significant real team need that takes this team from being a wild card possible contender to being a division possible contender when you combine it with the pitching. It's that dramatic of a move. Just that one player, that one bopper is that dramatic of a move in the National League Central that it could totally change the landscape of how we grade the offseason.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things that it could affect. And it's clear that it would be a great move because actually Eugenio Suarez showed up, and obviously still being a free agent. There's a couple of free agents that showed up on this list, but MLB Network did their top 100 players. Eugenio Suarez is on that list. And so are 3 other Cincinnati Reds players who we'll discuss coming up next. If you can't watch us here on YouTube, you can always listen to us on your favorite podcasting app. We're free and available everywhere you get your podcasts. And also follow us on social media. You can follow me at Jeff Carr with 3 Fs, and you can follow Steve at S. Offenbaker with 2 Fs. You can follow the show at Locked On Reds. All right, Steve, MLB Network released their top 100, and I think that this is something that we're going to be doing here on Locked On. We're going to have our own Locked On MLB top 100 coming up here in the next, it's going to be a few weeks away, but just a quick
little preview. I'm number one. Spoiler alert. I am the
It's
number
about the
one
players, Steve. It's not about you. Not everything is about you. My gosh. Anyway. The Reds got 3 players in the MLB Network top 100. One of them was in the top 50. You had Hunter Greene at number 45. You had Elly De La Cruz at number 52. And you had Andrew Abbott at number 90. And I'm blanking on where Eugenio Suarez fit in, but he was in the top 100 as well. Go sign him. We really want that to happen. Anyway, 3 current Reds players are making it in the top 100. And I think it's right. I had a little bit of gripe. I thought Nick Krall could have made it in there, but I think, if he just has another season like he had last year, it's going to be a foregone conclusion that he's a top 100 player next year. But I could kind of see where they stiffed him on the top 100. But I love the fact that the Reds got 3 guys in here, because if you were to ask a random Reds fan on the street how many they'd have, probably somebody would be like, I don't know, Elly, maybe Hunter. Andrew Abbott's like, what about me, dude?
Were you surprised at the separation between Hunter Greene and Andrew Abbott? On these rankings, they're nearly 50 players apart.
A little bit, but I think that there's a virality to this list. I think that there is let's look at the personality, let's look at the marketability, let's look at the just the overall, I'm trying to think of the word, the marquee nature of this. And I don't think that Andrew Abbott has that kind of pull outside the city of Cincinnati. We know how good he is. And we think that he should be higher than 90. And we think that he should be closer to Hunter Greene. But the nation doesn't know that just yet. I wonder if this year might convince them a little bit more.
Secondary follow-up question, sir. I'm a little surprised that Elly and Hunter aren't flip-flopped a little bit. In the rankings. I think that's probably a direct result of Elly's bum leg last year and the season that he had, the stretch of no home runs. I think all of those things contributed to maybe him being ranked a little bit lower than he probably should have been. I'm really interested to see the season that Elly De La Cruz puts together this year, because there is going to be a renewed focus on keeping him healthy and a renewed focus on giving him a little bit of rest at times. So I want to see what that translates to, because I think maybe they rated him just a little bit low in what we know he's capable of. So I think that's a byproduct of the fact that we got to hang that Elly played 162 banner. And I feel like, I can't remember, was it Rico Suave that made that banner for us? I can't remember.
I think so, yeah.
Or I think we need an amended one that Elly played 162 on one leg. I would like the banner to be adjusted a little bit. But I was a little bit surprised. I agree with the 3 players they picked here that are in the top 100. I'm not so sure there's that much separation between the 2 starting pitchers, because interesting conversation that happened at Reds Fest, and I don't remember what it sprung out of, but it was whether or not Andrew Abbott should be the opening day starter based on the season that he had. And I wish I could remember who I was talking to about this. And if it was you and you're listening, thanks. Great conversation point, because I agree. If you're just looking at 2025 in the rear view and you want to reward somebody, which is what starting opening day in Cincinnati is, it's a reward for what you've done for this team. If we want to reward the 2025 performance, I think you do start Andrew Abbott and give him that honor. He was an all-star last season. He led the team in starts. He did a lot of things for this rotation. He was a stabilizing force alongside Brady Singer just in taking his turn. I would make him the opening day starter. So I feel like that separation between Hunter and Andrew, while if you're looking at talent and ceiling and all of the things, okay, yeah, there's probably some separation there. But in actual performance, I think you move Andrew Abbott and Hunter Greene closer together.
I can agree with that. I'm with you on the Elly thing. I think he was a little bit lower than I would have expected, but I also, there's part of me that celebrates this as a Reds fan, that these 3 guys made the top 100. There's another part of me that hopes that Elly takes this as a chip on his shoulder type deal, because he's outside the top 50. It looks like people are like, okay, we're seeing some things, but it seems like you need to prove it a little bit more. And they do this, and I'm trying to remember if it's The Athletic or who it is that conducts these surveys, but they conduct these surveys of major league players, and they keep them anonymous and all this other stuff at some points during the season. And they always ask him, who's the MVP, who's the best pitcher, who's all this. And they ask him who's the most overrated. And for the last couple of years, they have all said either Elly De La Cruz or Jazz Chisholm, because of the hype that surrounds them and because they just haven't seen him really take off just yet. And it's really hard to argue that, because, I mean, it's been all right, but like he hasn't hit that superstardom that we all think he can get to. And I think if he does that this year, then we will see, all of the things come together for him. But right now, it just kind of feels like there's potential, there's his production, and there's a gap that he's got to cross. And it feels like this is going to be that year he does that. This
is going to be the first time in Elly's career. And if you look, try to take a step back and look at Elly's career from an overview. He's come through where he was signed as a talent, but not with any real expectation. And then he started playing minor league ball and just had this meteoric rise to awareness within the Reds organization and the baseball community at large, tears up the minor leagues, does all these things, comes to the majors, just delivers these electric moments. And everybody is just more, give us more, Elly, more. And then he has this injury. And I think this is the first time in his professional career where he has to answer a little bit of adversity, where he has to answer a little bit of, you're not who we thought you were. And I'm with you. I want to see how he responds to that. Does that create a chip on his shoulder? And we see that electricity going through a Great American Ballpark again. I think there's a real possibility we do, given the him coming off of the injury, but being healthy. He looked good at Reds Fest, saying he's not playing in the World Baseball Classic out of abundance of caution. All of these things. Those are all the right answers to see if he can move to that next level. I would love for it to be this season that he moves to that next level, because the lineup really needs him to move to that next level. And we could be talking about Elly in the top 20, top 10, if he actually turns that corner. Yeah, that's where he clearly has the talent to be there. Now it's about realizing that talent and applying the hypothetical to the reality and making it real on the field.
The next thing that I'm thinking too is like, who has the chance to jump up there next year? And knowing that it's not likely that we have a guy who's currently off the list who jumps into like the top 50, but like around Andrew Abbott's range. Like he could be around like the 90 range or something. Is there a Red this season that could do that? Because I look at Nick Lodolo, I sort of look at Matt McClain, but I think based on 2025, there might be some people that are cautious to really rate him super high outside of the city of Cincinnati, unless he has like a 6 WAR season this year. But
two seasons. He needs 2 seasons.
And then everybody will see you.
So this year is to set a tone that, hey, I'm not that guy last year. I'm much more like the guy I was when I got called up. Then the next year is for consistency, right? You get to the 2027 or 2028, whichever it is, you get to that next season. And if he's a 3-4 WAR player back-to-back seasons, now you've got something.
Yeah. And that's for the national attention. I think that the Reds still need to like strike while the iron's hot. If he has a 3 WAR season, sign that dude to a long-term
100%.
deal. But yeah, as far as national opinion goes, it's going to take a little bit more time for him to rebuild that. But he's certainly a guy that is on the watch list, not likely to jump up there next year, unless he just goes crazy this year, which that'd be a lot of fun. But that's going to do it for us here today. Thank you so much for checking us out. Hope you're staying warm all throughout the weekend. Whenever you're checking out this episode, really hope that we get some good news about the Reds here soon when it comes to Eugenio Suarez, or maybe adding a different bat of just as much impact. Don't know really who that is, but we can talk about that a little bit more on the next Locked On Reds podcast as to who that might be. We'll also dive into some of the prospect rankings because the Reds had a couple of guys in the top 100, and Baseball America took its shot, saying if you're in our top 100, you're going to be good. We'll talk about that on the next Locked On Reds podcast. Thanks so much for checking out today's, though. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button. And if you're watching here on video, make sure that you hang on for the first ever 24/7 Locked On YouTube channel. If you're listening on your favorite podcast app, go check out Locked On MLB. Sully's got you covered with all the moves going around in the league. I'm sure he's talking highly about, teams like the Rangers that just made a trade for a pitcher, or the Brewers who just sent away Freddie Peralta, things like that. That's all on Locked On MLB. Just like Locked On Reds, we're everywhere you get your podcast. But as for Steve and myself, we will be Locked On Reds every single day.
Buddy, a foot of snow. I am going to be at the beach trolling you all.
They said too, like, you're like, well, the total could be affected because it could change to sleet. It's like, that makes me feel better. Makes me feel better.